been done this year. Our seniors will be presenting. We have 4 tonight and 4 tomorrow night, and they'll be presenting part of their research and part of their creativity during their capstone project. So we're going to see a variety of different things. The nice thing I think about these concerts is that they're really a reflection of what our students do and what our major in music technology does. So tonight we'll see videos, we'll see game interaction, we'll see electronic music, we'll also see lighting design, so just a wide spectrum, a variety of different materials. Also on this concert we'll have some underclassmen, some freshmen, sophomores, juniors, who will be presenting their recent work in electroacoustic music. So should be a fun one. So thank you so much for coming, and we'll go ahead and get started. So thank you.
Hello, my name is Brady Cool, and I'm a third-year music technology student here at Montana State University. During this past summer, I took an internship with the local sound and lighting company, Jericho Studios, helping out with concert sound in Big Sky. And while working on these concerts, I discovered a love and passion for concert lighting. With just a couple of concerts, I was able to help with setup, tear down, and even actually running lights at some of these events. I continued to help out with Jericho after the summer ended, and while doing that, I was able to create a show file and start programming more lights to do more events. When I started on my capstone project, my main goal was to create a time-coded lighting show that ran off of MIDI, which is musical instrument digital interface, and is basically a universal code for music. And have lights run off of MIDI rather than DMX, which is digital multiplex, which is what most lights run off of. Time coding a show can be very interesting because you have to have both the lights and both the music running together and working in tandem. The lights have to be able to show a song's motive while also allowing for interesting and cool visuals. Some ways of doing this are by using the dimmer and intensity of the lights, which is basically just how bright the light can go. Another way of doing this is by using colors through the lights to emphasize mood and really show what the lights can do. In other venues, another way of doing this is by having lights that are able to move and show different ways of lighting the area. And also using these things known as gobos, which basically allow for you to change how the light is being presented. When programming is a long process of lining up beats to the lights and using colors and dimmers to set up timestamps with your music. Every time a light turns on, changes color, or turns off is an individual program to match the music. When working on this project, some of the main issues that I ran into were finding software that works with my hardware, the creation of my show file, and the actual programming of the lights. When I started, I learned the hard way that the hardware that I was using only works with very limited software. First, I started with DMXIS or DMXs to see if that would work, and it is one of the major lighting programs for converting MIDI to DMX. That did not work, sadly. So then the next one that I went to was NTech, which is the same brand that I'm using the hardware for up in the booth. Funny enough, that also didn't work. So then I had to go and find a new piece of software to use. I was able to find a software called SoundSwitch, which did exactly what I needed for it to do, but had a more hard time of programming it. When making my show, the first thing that I had to do was patch all the lights, which is where all of the lights have an individual number given to them that controls things about the light. It normally ranges 1 through 500. Luckily for this venue, all of the lights were already patched due to us already having a concert and shows here. Then after that process was done, I would have to go in and make groups for my lights and set everything up to which everything would work properly. Once I got all of that done and once I got all of my show file completed, I then went on to start the programming process of all of my lights. This took a very long amount of time just due to how every single beat had to line up and how this was just a little bit of a different programming than what I am normally used to. But after I got that fully completed, my show was all ready to go. When doing this, I use AI-generated music due to how my thesis paper is based off of AI-generated music. I went through a diverse amount of music when trying to make this. It's because my first piece, I decided to go with more classical-based instruments and mainly point out what these lights can do and how they work. And then my next two pieces, I went into more of things that you would hear in regular concerts and things that would allow for me to show more of the creative process behind using these lights. My first piece will contain 4 different parts of a drum part, a bass line, string part, and a melody. The drum part will be presented through these backlights up here on this back truss in the color of orange. Then my melody will be presented with this truss up here, and they will mainly be hitting down here at the front of the stage. The string part that I have will be presented on the truss right behind that, and the bass part that I have will be on the truss way in the back. I hope that you guys enjoy my show. Warning, if you are prone to seizures, these are very bright flashing lights that will be doing a lot of things. So I hope you enjoy. I now have to run up there.
Go, Ethan. Just go. I'm just cheering you on. You got it. Thank you all for being here. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean it. But thank you all for being here. Not just for me, but for all of our Capstone students and all those who are just presenting their work if they wanted to. That's awesome. One of my professors once said it's not about hiring those who can do the job when it's easy, but those who can do it when everything hits the fan and you gotta just improvise. So I think we're doing a good job. How we doing? No. Not yet. No. How about now? Yeah. Yeah, there we go. All right. Awesome. Thank you for your patience once again. Thanks to everyone for being here. My name is Ethan. I'm also a Capstone student. And today I'll be happy to talk to you about my creative project, and then I'll touch a little bit on my research before we do a demo of the creative project. So, ever since growing up, I've loved music and I've loved video games. And in high school in band class, they always talked about going on to take a music degree in college, and that appealed to me, but I didn't want to be a music teacher. No offense to the music ed majors, you're doing great work out there. But that just wasn't for me. I felt like teaching wasn't where I wanted to go with it. But I also didn't want to be a clarinet performer, so I don't know what my other options were. Then I heard about this school near my hometown called DigiPenn Institute of Technology. They had a degree in sound design. And I was like, wow, that sounds cool. Toured their college. It was neat, but it was private and really expensive, and it just didn't have everything I wanted. But then came Montana State, and it did. So here I am studying music tech with the goal of going into sound design after I graduate. So you may not even know what sound design is. Let me elaborate. So when you're watching a film or playing a video game, you may come across some sounds that fit, but you might think like, hang on, I'm watching Game of Thrones, and like there aren't dragons in real life, so where did that sound even come from? Like, somebody had to make it, and that's where sound design comes in. So it's a real creative job. Your goal is to create these otherworldly sounds using worldly objects, and also lately with the help of some digital signal processing, or DSP. So personally, I find my most fruitful work comes when I'm working in Ableton Live. That's the software that I run to do my sound design. And then I'll export my little bounces and then put them into a different program. We have to work in like 3 different environments at once. So once you've created all the sounds you want, you shape them the way you want, then they have to somehow get baked into the final product. So at least in video games, that can happen directly into the game engine where the game's being developed, or if you're extra savvy, you might work in a secondary program like Wise or Fmod, and there are plenty of others. They're still being developed all the time. It's what we call middleware, where you would put the audio into your middleware, and then the middleware interfaces with the game engine to deliver a really great finished product. So just about every AAA video game you see out there is going to use some audio middleware, and famously, one that used Fmod is called Celeste. It's an indie game that was developed in 2018. It's what we call a precision platformer, where your character is navigating some difficult terrain, and your goal is to get from point A to point B, but sometimes it might require puzzle solving, might require some quick reactions. Anyway, it's a favorite game of mine, and the developers were so generous to make their project public and allow basically anybody to sign into the Fmod website and download their project files so that you can go in and tweak them, replace them, even just see what the organization is like. And for someone like me who's aspiring to go into this field of sound design, that was infinitely helpful. So right now I've got the Fmod project open. I don't need the lights down just yet. Oh, the lights are down. That's okay. Don't worry. The lights are coming back up. That's cool too. My bad, Dr. Bolte. Poor communication. That's my bad. But anyway, I was looking at the project when I first began, and going through it, and there's all these sounds. I was thinking like, wow, if only I had known about this last year when I was in the multimedia audio production class when I chose Celeste as my game to redesign the sounds. Because this is just a much more robust solution. With that project, we were instructed to take a screen capture of a clip of the game and then go in and physically replace each and every sound. And that worked, but I knew that there must have been a better solution. Like, that's not how they develop games these days. Yeah, there's a lot more going on in the background with game design. So when I got my hands on this project, it was really eye-opening, super, super fun stuff. But there was one system that was just beyond what I could recreate, and that is their dialogue system in this game. Watching the actual sound designer go through it sort of made sense, but basically the characters will have a conversation, but they're talking more in syllables, like, and they have different synthesizers for their voices. But the way that they coded the dialogue, think about jumping from this file to this file to this file to this file to this file. It's a mess. It's a mess just looking at it. But so I didn't bother redesigning that. But when I eventually demoed the project, every other sound that you will hear was created by me and implemented into the studio environment. So hopefully we'll get into that soon. But before the lights go down, I'll talk a little bit about my research project as well. So I grew up playing recorder in elementary school, and then I chose in my 6th grade to play clarinet. And I love the clarinet. I've met a lot of great people through the studio here at MSU, and it's just been a lot of fun playing in marching bands, coming here, maybe even pit orchestras. And I love the clarinet because it's so expressive. And I understand there are a lot of expressive instruments out there. But when it comes to electronic instruments, I feel like they're not nearly there in terms of how much expression you can put into playing in the moment. If you look at, say, a live concert and you see a keyboardist on stage, they'll often have one hand on the keys if they're in a solo, and the other hand is on some knobs on the keyboard. For instance, the pitch knob, so they can play a note and go, wah, right? So there must be a better solution than just these knobs, so you can actually use both hands on the keyboard, right? And the fantastic thing is, there are people working on that right now. You perhaps, if you're a music student here or you enjoy watching music production on YouTube, you may have heard of the Rolly C-board. It's like a keyboard made of like gummy material, so that when you press a key, you can like squish into it and make it wobble around so to get that kind of vibrato effect, but with one hand on one key. And actually what powers these instruments is what we call MIDI polyphonic expression. Polyphonic meaning all of the different notes that you're playing at once can have their own expression values, which means I can't just squeeze one key, I can squeeze 2 keys, or even 10 if I use all of my fingers. So there's virtually infinite expression there, right? But to a traditional keyboard player, that's not a great solution because they're used to playing these very firm keys that, press directly down, and they probably don't wiggle them back and forth because on a piano that doesn't do anything. So then comes along the Expressive E Osmos. And this is a really cool instrument that I'm hoping to get someday because it looks like a traditional keyboard. It's maybe a little shorter, but instead of the keys just going straight down, they can wobble. So as you're pressing it down, it can wobble. It's also very sensitive to the touch. So as you're pressing down a key, you may be playing a certain preset that sounds like a flute. And so immediately when you start pressing down the key, you start hearing the sound come out. And it's fascinating to me to see people play this and just hear what they've come up with. So I love where expressive instruments are coming over time. They're becoming more accessible, they're becoming cheaper, so that people like you and me can eventually maybe have one in our home studio without spending over $1,000. So that's what my research is about. It's about checking out these MPE synthesizers, seeing where they've come from and seeing where they're going, so that our future is even more expressive. Anyway, now I'd like the lights down so I can show you the demo of my Celeste project. So as soon as I start it up from Steam, we'll start hearing my music and my sound design come through. It's booting up in full screen. Here we go. All right. Pardon me, this is actually not my sound. I have to set up a launch preference. I think this is a great atmosphere for what's happening. What do you guys think? It's very calming for my nerves. Yeah, so what I should be seeing is a setting that says like connect to game, because I have the game running, and that way my sounds can interface with the sounds that are already built in. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be appearing, and I'm not sure exactly why, because while I was setting it up earlier, it was there. But we'll see. We'll see. In the end, you might just have to take my word for it. So thank you for your patience. In the meantime, I guess this is what the game sounds like, so you have a reference to go against. I think it sounds great. By the way, this character's name is Madeline. Don't worry about all the falling stars in the background. I'm sure she's safe. All right, let's take a brief intermission and see how FMod Studio is doing. I don't think it's going to get done in time. So my greatest apologies. I won't be able to show you my creative work at the moment. We'll see if I can get this running, and maybe if you want to hang out in the lobby afterward, I'll show you. Okay? Thank you guys for your patience. I really appreciate it.
Hello, my name is Sienna. I'm a freshman. I'm a little guy. And I had to write a piece for an acoustic instrument and electronics for my MIDI and electroacoustic composition class. And so I decided to write for trumpet, because it's what I play. And so this piece, if you read the program's notes, is based off of Star Trek pretty much. I've watched all the series. If you know, there's a lot of them. But I'm a big fan, especially of the music. I think one of my favorite soundtracks is The Wrath of Khan, Star Trek II by James Horner. And so you'll hear just a little snippet of Khan's theme kind of throughout, because it's definitely one of my favorites. And then throughout, just little quotes and odes to the original music. But besides those little things, this is all original. Yeah, so that's my introduction, and I'm going to play it now.
Hello, everyone. While I'm getting set up, I'll just introduce myself. I'm a senior graduating the music tech program here in a week. My name's Quinn Sigler. And for my creative component of my capstone, I also worked on the sound design for a video game. But there's a little bit of backstory that I'll get into before I exhibit some of my material. So the story begins actually about a year ago. Delightful. When I was put into contact with Dr. Tricia Seifert, who was heading a team that was developing a college simulator video game, and I was onboarded to that process to compose some music for the group and for the team and help them hit some deadlines in the spring and into the summer. And it was a lovely experience. And then I took some time off of that in the fall. And as we were approaching Capstone this spring, I thought, thanks, McAfee. I thought it'd be a great opportunity to work with them more as part of my capstone to kind of learn more about the more holistic view of video game sound, incorporating sound design, sound effects in addition to the music, and also being able to teach myself how to work in the audio middleware that Ethan was describing earlier. He learned Fmod. I'm working in Wise. So I thought that I could kind of just do somewhat of an under-the-hood look at my process and what this spring has looked like for me as I've kind of tackled some of the obstacles that have come with learning the software and installing sound design into a video game. I'm going to time myself too. So I figured I'd break it up into two categories, one being like sound effects and one being music. So as I hop in here, the first kind of large hurdle that I came across was implementing footsteps in, which is kind of a pretty immense part of any video game. It's something that you see in every game, but immediately upon leaping in, I kind of had to grapple with the epic highs and lows that are scripting in Java, and particularly trying to implement my own code into someone else's script, which was just immediately a bit of a roadblock. But once I was able to figure that out, I was able to connect that and basically tell the game engine that when the player is moving, to look into the middleware Wise to tell it to play one of either two kind of randomizing components, one for like dirt sound steps. So when you're walking on grass over here, you're hearing one thing. When you're walking on concrete over there, it's another thing. Turn off the music for now. So that was kind of the first of my hurdles, so to say, and implemented pretty well. I think the one other thing that ended up taking a lot of time was creating collider zones so that the game actually knows when you're on concrete and when you're on dirt, which is another kind of roadblock that came with leaping into a game that was already not really in the infancy of its design. If you were kind of working with the design team as they were designing the map as a whole, then you could kind of implement texture-based cues, essentially, so that the game inherently knows when you're on concrete and when you're on grass. But I didn't have that opportunity to be with them for that part. So instead, I just created a bunch of different colliders all over the map that tell the player capsule when they're on concrete and when they're on dirt. Other than that, in the sound effect realm, I've got some kind of sweeping ambience of just like wind and trees and birds, which all kind of were really instrumental in being able to show myself some of the other more basic aspects of sound design, like creating standalone sounds that are directional based and have attenuation spheres of their own, so that you can be walking around a tree with some birds in it per se, and be able to have that sound have directionality in your player's sphere of focus. Yeah, let's see what else we got. That's about it. I think I'll move into the music aspect, which is really what was more interesting to me when I started along this road. Something that I've been really interested in for a long time is like film scores, and video games are kind of really in that same vein. And so I was really interested in the way that I could manufacture a score and a soundtrack that was interwoven with the playability of the game. And so I decided to undertake that by creating different sound bites and soundtracks for different areas of the game. So on campus here, as you can see, let me hop out of the game for a sec to show you all around. We've got a bunch of different buildings. We've got kind of a main campus theme. I'm not sure why it's all grayed out there, I apologize. But then we've got buildings like the library, we've got dorm rooms and different education centers, we've got science buildings, arts buildings, humanities, business, all that stuff. And so I figured, what better way to interweave music and playability than to make different themes for each building. So I figured I had one main theme soundtrack for when you're outside and kind of walking around campus, and then I developed unique soundtracks for the business buildings, business and education, and then arts and humanities, and another one for the science buildings. And then along with each of those unique soundtracks, I also implemented stingers, which are essentially musical cues, so that when you walk into any of these buildings, it triggers that cue, so that it's kind of a transition in between our main theme and the other individual theme you might come across. So I'll demonstrate some of those now. So we got our main theme as we're walking about. I don't know off the top of my head which buildings or what names of buildings correlate with the level of education or the type of education that they're going to be doing, but so this is a business building. So you'll notice when we walked in there and it triggered this kind of triumphant, heroic-esque little jingle. When you walk back out, you're exiting one of those larger scale colliders in the game engine, which is communicating with Wise to tell the game which musical segment to play and how to switch between those. So if we go into this one, this is also a business building. Yeah, zoom around a little bit. So we got a little science theme here. And there's one for arts as well. Once again, business. Business heavy campus. Working with here. I believe this is the student union actually, so I left that. Student union and the dorm just have the same theme as the main campus. I believe this is arts and science. Come on, Bessie. There we go. So there's the arts to cap off those three other unique themes. So that was certainly the part of my creative project that I found the most interesting myself, was kind of how to navigate the crossroads between like hard skills like the coding and the programming in Wise, and then also joining that up with my creative capacity to be able to interweave these different themes and have transitions that make sense musically and thematically with the game. Let's see how I'm gonna do it one time. Pretty good. So I figured the last thing I would leap into would be a little showcase of where the game is headed, because I'm kind of still working on this project, and so are on this team, so I've got the fun opportunity to have this not be the end for me. So I'm going to continue to keep working with this group through the summer and beyond. So one thing that I was really interested at the beginning of the semester and wasn't able to implement as much as I would have hoped was real-time parameter control based on in-game variables, which would be, for instance, having a musical filter change based on the player's health, well-being, wellness, monetary standing, whatever. And I was able to implement that to an extent. I'm actually not sure if it works because I just did it this last week and I haven't been able to play the game through long enough to where one of those variables actually changes, but I'm pretty sure it does. And for the sake of testing, I actually just kind of put a little cheat button in there, if you will, that changes that parameter directly. So essentially, I figured if you're a college student in this game and you're feeling overwhelmed, your stress bar is high, your mental wellness is low, then it might kind of feel like you're drowning, like you do often in real life. And so I figured what better way to represent that musically than to have a low-pass filter cut off in different levels based on your well-being. So there's kind of 3 levels, and the first one at 66 has kind of this low-pass filter that cuts off about 2/3 of the way up, so it's not tremendously noticeable, but you're also kind of knocking off some of those high frequencies. And then if you are really struggling, that'll go down to 33, and then it really feels like you're underwater. And then you really have to listen to those footsteps so much more. But that's really all I wanted to show you guys, and to kind of end off on a forward-looking note. Yeah, thanks for coming, guys.
Great news. It worked. All right, so right now it's syncing my new sounds with the game's current sounds. And we're already hearing my menu music. If we could have the lights on, thank you so much. So now we've already heard a reference. I'm just gonna play a little bit of the game and hope you enjoy the new sounds I've made. Actually, it sounds like they're both playing. I'll be right back. Madeline is very agile. Uh-oh, where'd the music go? Don't worry, that was on purpose. This is that really complex dialogue system I was talking about. It would be a nightmare to recreate, but it sounds awesome. I'm gonna skip a little bit of the dialogue, but this is where it gets exciting. I think that's about all I'll show for now. But thank you guys for your patience again with what I was going through before. Like Quinn was saying earlier, the scripting, like what goes on behind the scenes between the middleware and the game system is like super complicated. I still have a lot of ways to go with that, so props to him for figuring that out. But again, having a completed project like that where you can just plug and play your sounds and I guess tweak the scripts if you want is really neat. But being in along with the development process, like Quinn was doing, that's like the goal to get like the best experience. I just wanted to test my sound design prowess with this. So thank you again for your time. Enjoy the rest of the program.
It's okay. No worries. No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Alrighty. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight. My name is Noah Ziegler. I'm a senior here at MSU in the music tech program. I'm joined on stage today by Tanner Rubino and Cole Orlup. They play the trumpet in a ska band that I'm also in called Hornbread. You guys might have heard of us. Yeah. I had a pleasure of playing with these guys, coached by Dr. Stoneback in 11th Avenue Brass Quintet with my girlfriend and also our trombone player. So we go way back, not just the ska, actually, we have some roots in the school, so yeah. We started in June of last year, and you know, we've just been having a ton of success since we started working on this album. We've recently won Battle of the Bands at the ASMSU Battle of the Bands here on campus, where we won some some recording time and some mixing. So we have yet another album on the way, which is a good segue into my senior capstone project, my creative project. I recorded, mixed, and mastered the album. 8 tracks. We are calling it Freshly Baked, since it's our first one. And you know, we love the horn puns, or the bread puns, excuse me. Yeah, the horn ones are great too, yeah. We started working on this in January when the semester started. Our first recording session was in February, and I've been literally living in the studio up until May here. Just a couple days ago, I finally moved out. Finished up the project, and I'm extremely excited to share it with all of you guys. I just think it really is it sounds like us. It's a good first album. Really excited to make more albums along the way. And I just want to say huge thanks to McLean Daou, Caleb Hindeman, Dr. Bolte, Dr. Ontos, Isaac Weinmiller, just all these guys who, you know, everyone in the capstone class who helped shape the sound of the record. I could not have done it without all of you, everyone in the band, and to really, you know, keep giving out these thank yous. I want to thank my girlfriend, my family, Dr. Ontos, Dr. Little, Dr. Stark, Dr. Stoneback, and all of my professors I didn't mention, all my friends I didn't mention. It's just been a wonderful experience here at MSU, and I just think this has been such a cool way to, like, you know, my capstone, I got to record a record with my friends, so I hope you guys really enjoy. We're playing 2 tunes tonight, one called This Is How It Ends, and another original called Stink Bug Rug. Hope you guys enjoy.
tell me? 'Cause I've no clue, my friend. The only thing I know for sure is that this is how it ends. I've grown so tired of hearing from others about all the talking behind my back. And no matter how strong my defense is, still overwhelmed by the force of attack. So don't act surprised, don't think disbelief when I say I don't wanna hang out no more. No matter how loud you're not gonna answer, no need for false friendships anymore. Why has it started? Can you tell me? 'Cause I've no clue, my friend. The only thing I know for sure is that this is how it ends. I've grown so tired of the shortcomings of others. Spit from your mouth at every chance. Keep riding little by little, supporting the ego you like to enhance. The situation's become so boring now. Just shut my mouth and slam the door. No matter how loud you're not gonna answer, I won't deal with you anymore. Why has it started? Can you tell me? 'Cause I've no clue, my friend. The only thing I know for sure is that this is how it ends.
Oh my!
Across the sea, many miles away, concrete master plan now played. BK rapidly drift his way, floating by. I'm here to say, not to fumble, drainage rumble, sinking fast. So do not stumble, carapace, copper, carbon, rain, crawling to the bottom, mandibles, fire, gnashing, Elvis in the daily distraction, bashing, burst, flowing, teaching, turning, rushing, choking. And we all discover, we know which way is down. Yeah, we all discover what's lost will not be found. And we all discover the silence in the sound. And we all discover how to drown. Roadblock is flashing past, full of stats, you stand aghast. Grayish green, I take to mean you're flying faster through the scene. Step it up, we're winding down the world's largest toilet. And we all discover, we know which way is down. And we all discover what's lost will not be found. And we all discover the silence in the sound. And we all discover how to drown.
projects as well as some under class students. So please come tomorrow night at 7:30. Thank you.